Good afternoon, and welcome to our webinar sponsored by Stoneridge Software on Power BI and the Power BI platform, and using specifically connecting with Dynamics 365 Business Central. My name is Marcus Haug, one of our pre-sales engineers here at Stoneridge. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. Everyone is muted on the line, so if you do have questions, feel free to use the questions pane at any time during the broadcast, and I will do my best to answer those questions. We've got a lot of content in 30 minutes, so if you've got questions and we run over, I will certainly stay on. All right, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to look at today. So we're going to talk about the Power Platform, specifically three components of the Power Platform. We're going to talk about Power BI, talk about Power Apps, and then Power Automate, which is the new name with what was called Microsoft Flow before. Oops. Back up one question. Okay, so looking at the Power Platform, there's more components in the Power Platform than just those three products. And I think it's important to look at and talk about what those components actually are. So the first thing is Power Apps or Power Portal, which is another component within the Power Apps product. And Power Apps, Microsoft says, is a suite of apps, services, connectors, and data platforms that provides rapid application development to build custom apps for your business. Using Power Apps, you can quickly build custom business applications that connect to your business data, either stored in the underlying data platform or a common data service or SQL Server, etc. So Power Apps allows, as Microsoft would call, citizen developers to develop applications. And again, a key component of the Power Platform are these connectors. So Power Apps would allow you to build applications on, let's say, an on-prem SQL Server, or SQL data that's stored in Azure, or in the common data services. So there's a lot of options in terms of sources of data. And then your app could either be a Canvas app, a model-driven app, or actually a browser or a portal. So I'm going to show you one of those apps today in the demo. The second component here in the Power Platform is Power Automate, which is what Microsoft formerly had the product called Flow. Power Automate probably is a better term than what Flow is, because Power Automate is really a cloud-based application that allows you to leverage those connectors that we talked about in Power Apps to build data flows. So they could be integrations, they could be updates, they could be connectors to other applications. So there's a host of connectors that would be to applications like Evernote or Basecamp in terms of project management tools. There's flow connectors for texting applications. I have an HTML connector that would allow me to actually execute other web source feeds, that sort of thing. So it's a connector that would allow me, I can connect to other Office applications such as Outlook or Teams, that sort of thing. Specifically with Business Central, Microsoft has exposed the connectors that would deal with approvals or transaction flows. So for example, a new inventory item gets created or a new customer gets created, it could initiate a flow that would run to do and perform some action. So that's Power Automate or Flow. AI Builder is also part of the Power Platform. So this is the artificial intelligence builder. We really need to do a whole separate session on just the AI Builder, but just note that the AI Builder is available within the Power Platform to do lots of things, analyze photos, or analyze documents that come in, or do inventory analysis trending, or do some sort of calculations. Those are all models that are available within the Power Platform that I can leverage in a Power App, for example, or something like that. Power BI, another application within the Power Platform, is a data visualization tool. So we're going to show that a little bit later in Business Central, but it allows me to do reporting, dashboarding, all that sort of stuff. And then the last one is, oops, sorry about that. The last one is data integration components. And these are really your connectors. So these are the connectors that would allow me to connect to other data sources, they also allow me to connect to the common data service. So in terms of data integration, I could connect to SQL Server. I could also bring that data into the common data service, the common data model, to either run reports or run flows or run apps or do integrations, that sort of thing. So if you're familiar with Dynamics 365 for sales or customer engagement, those applications are currently already on the common data service. All right, so let's get out of PowerPoint and let's look at some applications. And the first thing I want to do is actually go into Business Central and back up one. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to reopen that page. So within Business Central, and this is just a standard template of Business Central, what you see if I scroll down here is an integration with Power BI. So this is, again, is the first component we're looking at. The interesting thing about this is if I expand this report, I have the ability to actually interact with the Power BI report just as if I was in Power BI directly. So if you're not familiar with Power BI, data visualization tool, lots of things I can do with Power BI, such as creating data slicers if I want. The other thing you'll notice is that these charts are all interactive. So as I click on segments of the charts, other elements or other charts, other elements of the report will update. This is also true when I look at a columnar type report. If I'm looking at specific departments, these are using dimensions that are in Business Central, but I could look at just admin, just production, for example, and my reports will update based on those slicers. Slicers could be around data, dimensional elements, they could be date elements, they could be other components of data. Just some examples of some charts that I've created, some data visualizations I've created looking at revenues and expenses. This is a nice little visual on actual versus budget around my income. So just some examples of reports. But what you'll notice is they're part of the Business Central integration with Power BI. If I come in here and select reports, what you'll notice is there's a whole bunch of standard reports that are delivered with the application with Business Central out of the box, but I can create my own. So the one that I'm looking at there is one that I created myself and made available in Business Central. Just to point out, I'm going to go over to the item list. And if I expand my fact boxes over here on the right, what you'll notice is that Power BI reports are available in places other than just my main role center. They're available throughout other pages. This particular report that I'm showing you is just like other fact boxes in Business Central in the sense that a variable is being passed to the Power BI report to act as a filter. So I'm just seeing a specific information about a specific item. These Power BI reports are available on your customers, vendors, other places throughout the application. So awesome integration point. Again, this is a custom report that I created on the Role Center is also a custom report, but those are available. Talk a little bit about how to build these reports. So this is the Power BI desktop application. And my personal preference is to use the desktop application. You can use the Office 365 Power BI platform on the web to do report development. I like the application. I find it a little more easy to work with, but you can use the web version as well. Pretty simple in terms of how this application works. It allows me to get my data. What you'll notice is there's several options to get data into the system. I've got a variety of data sources, but there is a specific integration point with Business Central. So it would allow you to connect to Business Central as the data source, and then I can determine what tenant, what company, what data source am I pulling from to get into Business Central. The other option is I can use an OData feed to get data out of my Business Central system. So, really two options. Pretty typical reporting tool, allows me to pull in my tables, perform my joins on my tables. I can actually view the data that's coming back from my data source here. I have the ability to add other columns, calculated columns, that sort of thing if I want to my data set. You'll notice over here on the right, I have access to all of my data elements, my specific fields. Then when I go to the visualization tool, it's really just a drag and drop option to create whatever data visualizations I want from my report. Just to highlight some visualizations that are a part of the application, these are the standard ones. There is a marketplace that's available where I can download additional visualizations. The one that I like, I think that you have to download is this little, I guess it's a kind of a donut chart that I downloaded for free, but it's an interactive donut that would allow me to slice and dice revenues, expenses, product lines. I mean, the possibilities are endless here in terms of how I would want to present my data, but other visualizations that are available for me to download. It works as a, in terms of, let's say, a P&L, I can run columnar or tabular type reports in here. I would just say that, Power BI, that's probably not its super strong suit, works. Its strong suit really is data visualization in terms of charts and that sort of thing. Charts can be built to be drill down enabled. So if I'm clicking on a particular element, it could open up a sub report, if you will, that's been also filtered. So a lot of feature functionality available within Power BI. Once I publish the report, so this is the publish button up here, this would publish to my Office 365 tenant. Once it's published, it's available within Power BI or within Business Central to display the data. There's a little bit of a thing you have to do with naming conventions to make them available for, let's say, the item page, the customer page, the vendor page, but not that big of a deal. And then the filtering automatically happens. So there's nothing additional that you have to do in terms of, let's say, an extension in Business Central. The Power BI out-of-the-box integration will take care of the building of the filters. So awesome tool, Power BI being one element in the Power Platform. Second element we want to talk about is what Microsoft is calling Power Automate, which was Flow. With the flows, then I have the ability to connect into triggers that can be initiated from Business Central, or I have the ability to actually read or write data back to Business Central using a flow. So I'm just going to open up this approval request flow that I created. Actually, I think I let Business Central create this one. So if I'm in Business Central, I can initiate a flow or an approval process, if you will, and it will automatically create the flow, and then I can edit it from here. But just to show you how this tool works, I've got an initiation trigger. This one happens to be when an item approval is requested within Business Central. You notice that I select my environment, my company. I can set conditions on when that approval is executed. This could be the same way when a new record is created, for example. So I create a new customer and I want to send a team alert, or maybe I want to send an email to the accounting team to know that they need to do something with the customer. Maybe they need to approve the credit limit, whatever it might be. Maybe the new inventory item I want to send to my production team for their review. So you get the point. New records or approvals could be done. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the record event. So this is an example of actually reading data out of Business Central directly using this connector. So I don't need to do gymnastics with web services or anything like that. The out-of-the-box connector is going to give me a connection to Business Central. And also integrate with the workflow component. So the key here is that I'm not just getting data and then Flow is working independent from Business Central. This is actually setting up the workflow and leveraging the workflow functionality in Business Central. So when the record gets blocked because it's pending approval, the flow will run in terms of notifying users. It will take the input in terms of saying, is it approved and rejected? And then the flow out of the box will automatically write back to Business Central to say, yep, the transaction is now approved, it's not blocked anymore, etc. So this connector does all that logic for me. I don't need to write any of that. So here it's going to create the approval, and then I'm going to post. So in this case, I'm using the Teams connector. So instead of sending an Outlook, I'm actually posting to a Teams channel with the information relevant to this particular flow. The nice thing about this is the end user can approve or reject just like they could in Outlook in Teams. So if I'm using either a channel or a specific transaction that I want to show up in someone's activity feed, this connector with Teams will work. Then in terms of the conditions, this is the response back. So the user said, yes, they approved it, or no, they didn't. So if they did approve it, again, I'm using the Teams message to say, a particular item has now been approved. And then I post a notification. This is actually an adaptive card. So you can see I can post some fairly complex HTML into Teams so it looks really nice. And then I'm executing an action within Business Central, which would then unlock or unblock the transaction that I'm looking at, etc. But you can see here I've got the ability to add whatever connectors to my approval that I would want to. So maybe it's once the transaction's approved, I make an entry into a Dropbox folder for some reason. There's connectors for text messaging. So if you think about what I could do with text messages, let's say on a shipment from a sales order. So I ship I ship the document. When a completed shipment happens, I can execute a flow that would send a text message to somebody or alert the salesperson. Really, you think about the unlimited possibilities you have using Power Automate to connect to Business Central. Again, I don't have to do gymnastics in terms of programming. It's as easy as pulling the connector into my flow and configuring the connector. It's a great tool. Done some experimenting actually with some data components, so other connectors that are available from within Power Automate. You can look at the connector. I think someone said there's over 300 here now. You get an idea of looking at Twilio and Facebook and Wunderlist and Yammer, To-Do List. I can connect to Salesforce if you're not using Microsoft CRM, Azure connectors. Again, Twilio is a fax component, which really works really nice. Basecamp, data project management tools. You see a host of connectors that I can now leverage either data into or out of, or just processing alongside transactions that are in Business Central. So possibilities are endless. Key thing on the whole Power Platform is this data component that I want to talk about. So this is the common data service. And what you'll notice is that it is a part of Power Automate, just like it's a part of Power Apps that we're going to see in a little bit. So I have the ability to create entities, to create connectors to my entities in terms of loading data from another source into the common data service, or pushing data out of the common data service into another application if I would want to. Here's that AI builder. So I talked a little bit about how artificial intelligence is integrated out of the box. Right here it is. So I can take the builder and create models right within Flow as well as Power Apps. So we flipped over to the Power Apps component, talk a little bit about Power Apps. I'm going to just say create one so that you can see there's three primary components. So I've got Canvas apps, I've got model-driven apps, and I've got portals. So that's your primary three components. A Canvas app is really going to be blank. It's going to allow you to build an app that could either be displayed on a tablet, on a phone, or a browser if you wanted to. But it's a canvas. It's a blank canvas that allows you to do whatever development you'd want on it. A model-driven app is going to allow me to take a model that's been created around the common data service and allow me to create an app. So I can have default views, I can have default lists, for example, that are a part of the data definition, if you will, in the common data service. So let's look at an account, for example. So I'm using a CRM term. I've got an account. The account could be active, it could be inactive. Maybe it's a customer account versus a prospect account. Well, I can create different views within the data model that define active customers, that define prospects. Okay, that's all part of the common data service. Then when I build this model-driven app, it's going to leverage those things that are already defined. So I don't need to create filters again on app 1, app 2, app 3. I can leverage those same definitions across all the apps that I'm building. So again, making deployment very quick and easy. It also makes deployment very consistent. So if I change what the definition of a prospect is within the common data service, apps that are using that definition are going to be updated. I don't have to go update 5, 6 apps. I just update one place. The portal is the ability to build a portal off of a data set that's in the common data service. So if you think about a vendor-facing portal, a customer-facing portal, et cetera, building a web page, leveraging the same connectors, the same data sets that I did before. Now, what I want to do is I just want to show you a really quick app, and I'm going to do a Canvas app that's based on data that's coming from Business Central. And I want to just show you how quick it is to get a base application going. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to start a new app. So I did create app, and I'm going to say from another data source, because I didn't want to use the common data service. And it's going to start the wizard here. Always a risk to do this. And let's try this again. All right, other data source. All right, there we go. And what I'm going to do is I've got some connectors that are built in, and I've already got a connector you can see that's connected to my Business Central system. So you'll notice the logo here is the Business Central logo. I created a connector, and it's as simple as providing a URL to where my Business Central database is located, identifying, actually I don't even identify the company in there. My user ID and password then will tell me what I have access to. So I'm going to say I'm going to connect to my Business Central data connector that I had already set up. And then you can see I've got several companies that I can connect to. So I'm going to connect to my Kronos Large 2 database. And then I have tables that are available to me. And I'm just going to start an app off of my item list. So off of my items, I clicked item. And what's going to happen then is, oops, connect. All right, so now the wizard is going to run through and it's going to analyze my item, and it's going to create a basic Canvas app designed for the phone that's going to allow me to view my inventory items, edit my inventory items, and create new inventory items. So I'm going to say skip the preview. All right, and I'm going to run this app, and I can run it just within the browser, and you'll see that this is my inventory list. Now it's selected which items it thinks that, or what data elements it thought would be interesting, but I can change those. But I want to show you that I can now, view the details of my item. I can actually edit the item. So this is my new description change, right? Click OK. And I'm using the Business Central connector with Power Apps, and that just updated my Business Central database. So now if I'm in the right company, so it just said it updated. If I go to my items, and there's my item with an updated. This is my new item description change. So you can see with a few clicks, I have again, it's a basic app, but it's an app that allows me to interact and actually update data that's in my Business Central system. Now I'm just going to close this, and I'm going to show you a little bit about how Power Apps work. So I've got a particular screen, and you'll notice that there's actually 3 screens that have been created here: a browse screen, a detailed screen, and an edit screen. It's put some data elements on there, et cetera. But all these are changeable. So if I come over here and I'd say, well, what actually do I want to show up on my report? So do I want base unit of measure, subtitle number? Well, I guess that's fine. Maybe instead of number, I want item category code, for example. You'll notice that my app is already changed to reflect item category code now in my app. And it's as simple as just a drop-down box here to select what type or what element of data do I want in my app. But the app is fully editable. So if I want to change the size of this and I want to add additional components to it, I can do that. Same thing with the detail in the edit screen. An item category code that's looking at this, underlying lookup key field irrelevant for me. Well, that's not a problem. I can go to the detailed screen, I can go to the detail edit here, and I can pull this field off, add the field, whatever I would want to, and then set up the app. To make this available, all I really do is save the app, and then when I save it, I can publish the app, and then using, again, my Office 365 domain credentials, I then assign which users have access to the app, permissions to the app, and then there's a Power Apps download that I can get either on my phone, on my tablet, or I can access Power Apps through my web Office 365 browser, and then launch the application. So images, all that sort of stuff that's available within Power Apps. The thing to note is once I'm in Power Apps, I can actually come up here and view data sources, and I could add other entities from my common data service model, and I could add other connectors if I wanted to this app. So if I'm looking up inventory items and some connection I wanted to make to Teams, it's available as a connector. So you notice that the whole Power Platform is consistent in terms of what I can do for the common data service and the connectors that are available to me. Other thing to note is Power BI is also integrated into and can be used within Power Apps. So if you think about a Power BI report, maybe I want to monitor the report for a certain condition to be met. Maybe my gross margin dropped below 50% today, across my sales orders that have been processed. Well, I can actually set up a data alert on that Power BI report that could initiate a flow, an automate process that would then do something. Okay, I could leverage that same flow within a Power App. So I could execute a Power App that that I have access to within a I could execute a flow that I have access to within a Power App, for example. So I have a new customer and I want to initiate some sort of transaction flow to go because I've got a new customer that's set up. Great. That could now interact with Business Central data. It could maybe send a report to somebody that's connected with Power BI. The other thing to note is that the AI builder is integrated into the Power Apps model here. So the same thing that I could do with in terms of connected, I've got some advanced tools that are available to me. The AI connector is one of those that I can then leverage into a Power App. So if you think about taking a picture of something and then based on that picture, I want to know what the item is. That's logic that could be easily built into a Power App using the AI connector. All right, I wanted to leave a little time for questions. So if there's any questions, feel free to use that question box that is part of GoToWebinar, and I would be happy to answer those questions for you. Just one thing to note as we're waiting, all of the features that I showed you are available today. So if you have an Office 365 tenant, and if you've got Flow and Power Apps, these are available. If you've got a Business Central license, you're going to see the Business Central connectors that are available within these applications. You do have the ability within the Common Data Service or within Power Apps to create a unique environment. So if you wanted to set one up for testing and sort of experimenting, make sure you get that environment set up, and don't hose up your production environment while you're doing some work on that sort of thing. But just know that exists as well. You'll notice that when I connected to my Business Central system, we're also able to select which environment we want to pick from. So I had two production environments set up in my Business Central environment. You could have multiple sandboxes that are set up, et cetera. So if I want to do testing, I don't have to worry about updating data to my production system. I can do testing and experimenting with a sandbox system. So Power BI is pretty non-invasive, if you would, to your production system. So other than potentially some performance hits, but you can experiment with Power BI against your production system. You're not writing back to your production system, so that should be fairly doable. All right, that is a lot to chew on today in a half hour. But again, if there's any questions, feel free to ask those. Otherwise, we'll just wait here a minute and see if anyone has any. All right. Not seeing any specific questions. I thank you for joining us. If you've got any further questions, feel free to reach out to us. We would love to help you leverage this technology with your, specifically with your Business Central system, but even with your finance and operations system, with your CE system, we can help you leverage Power Apps, further leverage Flow, and leverage Power BI to get the most out of your Office 365 investment. So I'll just hang on for 2 more minutes. If there's any more questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, thank you for attending and have a great afternoon.